Vrock moved fast for someone his size. His forearms swung forward, each one capable of crushing metal. The strike that came at Taesung's head could have killed an unprotected human instantly. In his old life, Taesung would have been terrified. Now connected to the Sentinel armor and guided by Era's combat protocols, he simply moved. The armor responded to his thoughts faster than conscious decision. Taesung shifted his weight, and Vrock's massive fist passed by his helmet with inches to spare. The crowd gasped. They had expected the human to go down in the first hit. Vrock's second and third arms came around in a wide arc, trying to catch him from both sides. Taesung dropped low, impossibly low, his enhanced joints bending in ways that should have been painful. The arms whistled over his head. Before Vrock could recover, Taesung's hand shot out and caught the Krathian's fourth arm. Impossible. Vrock grunted, trying to pull free. No human has this strength. Taesung stood up, still holding Vrock's arm. You don't know anything about humans. None of you do. He pulled, and Vrock stumbled forward. Taesung's other hand came up in a simple push, not even a real strike. But backed by the armor's power, that push sent the massive alien flying backward across the arena. Vrock crashed into the far wall hard enough to crack the metal plating. The crowd erupted in shocked voices. Some aliens were standing now, unable to believe what they were seeing. The two fighters with Vrock rushed forward together, one from each side. They carried energy staffs that crackled with electricity. Multiple opponents detected, Ara said calmly in his mind. Engaging tactical analysis. Recommend defensive posture followed by rapid counterattack. But Taesung wasn't thinking about tactics anymore. Years of being pushed around, mocked, and treated as worthless had created a fire inside him. The armor gave him the power to finally express it. The fighter on his left swung the energy staff at his legs, trying to sweep him. The one on his right aimed for his head. They were coordinating well, using tactics that would work against most opponents. Taesung jumped, using the armor's enhanced strength to leap straight up 10 feet. The two staffs hit each other in the space where he had been standing, and both fighters stumbled from the unexpected contact. Taesung came down between them. His hands moved in quick strikes, precise and controlled. He hit pressure points that Ara identified through the armor's sensors. Both fighters dropped their weapons and fell to their knees, temporarily paralyzed. They would recover in a few minutes, but they were out of the fight. Vrock had gotten back to his feet. Blood dripped from his mouth and his eyes burned with rage. He pulled out a plasma pistol, which was technically against arena rules. But nobody in the crowd seemed willing to stop him. I'll kill you for this, human, Vrock snarled. I'll show everyone that your species is just weak trash wearing stolen technology. The plasma pistol fired, 3 bolts in quick succession. They were fast, almost too fast to see. But to Taesung, connected to the armor's enhanced perception, they seemed to move in slow motion. He could see the superheated plasma, could calculate their trajectories, could plot his response. The armor's shields activated. Blue energy formed in front of Taesung just as the plasma bolts arrived. They splashed against the shield like water hitting a wall, dissipating harmlessly. The crowd was completely silent now. My turn, Taesung said. He moved forward, covering the distance to Vrock in 3 long strides. The Krathian fired again, but the shields held. When Taesung was close enough, he grabbed the plasma pistol and crushed it in his armored hand. The weapon sparked and died. Vrock threw a punch with all his considerable strength. It was his mistake. Taesung caught the fist in midair and held it. For a moment, they stood frozen, Vrock straining with all his might while Taesung simply held him in place. Humans aren't weak, Taesung said quietly. We never were. You just made us believe a lie. He pushed and Vrock flew backward again. This time Taesung followed. Before the Krathian could hit the ground, Taesung was there. His hand caught Vrock by the chest armor and slammed him down. The arena floor cracked from the impact. Stay down, Taesung said. This is over. Vrock tried to get up, but his body wouldn't respond. The impact had stunned him, possibly broken some ribs. He lay there gasping while Taesung stood over him. The crowd began to stir. Voices rose in confusion and fear. Some aliens were backing away from the arena, their eyes wide. Others were talking urgently into communication devices. Taesung looked up at all of them. Let this be a lesson. Humans are not your servants or your jokes. We deserve respect just like any other species. He turned to leave the arena, but the door slid shut. Red warning lights began flashing. A voice came over the station's speakers, cold and mechanical. Security alert. Unauthorized weapon detected. Arena lockdown initiated. It's a trap, Ara said urgently. I'm detecting multiple armed units converging on this location. They're not station security. Energy signatures match military-grade combat armor. Jamin's voice crackled through Tae-sung's communication link. Get out of there. The Covenant has agents on the station. They're coming for you. How do I get out? The doors are sealed. There's a maintenance shaft on the north side of the arena. I'm sending you the coordinates. Go now, Tae-sung ran. Behind him, he heard the arena doors explode inward. Heavy footsteps and shouted orders followed. His helmet display lit up with waypoints, showing him the path to the maintenance shaft. He found the access panel and tore it open. The shaft beyond was narrow, barely wide enough for him to fit. He climbed inside just as energy bolts began hitting the wall around him. The armor's shields absorbed some hits, but warnings flashed in his vision. He couldn't take sustained fire. The maintenance shaft led through the station's infrastructure, past life support systems and power conduits. Tae-sung climbed as fast as he could, following the path Jamin had uploaded to his navigation system. Behind him, he could hear his pursuers entering the shaft. They're gaining on you, Ara reported. These are trained soldiers, likely Covenant Special Forces. They know how to fight. Can I beat them? In open combat, certainly. But in these narrow spaces, they have the advantage. We need to reach a more favorable position. The shaft opened into a cargo bay. Tae-sung dropped down and immediately ran for cover behind a stack of supply containers. Energy bolts lanced through the air, some missing by inches. He counted at least 6 attackers, all wearing advanced combat armor that looked like it cost more than the entire salvage station. Tae-sung. Hyunwoo's voice came from across the cargo bay. His friend was crouched behind some equipment, also under fire. What did you do? It's complicated. Why are you here? I followed you. I wanted to make sure you were okay after the fight. One of the attackers threw something into the cargo bay. Tae-sung's sensors identified it immediately as a stun grenade. Without thinking, he jumped from his cover, grabbed the grenade in midair and threw it back through the shaft entrance. The explosion was muffled but effective. 2 of the attackers fell, stunned. The remaining 4 spread out using professional tactics. They were trying to flank him, to catch him in crossfire. Tae-sung's mind raced. He couldn't fight them all while protecting Hyunwoo. Ara, can I use the teleportation? The energy field generator is functional. But at your current skill level, you can only manage short jumps, maybe 5 meters, and each jump drains significant power. It'll have to be enough. Tae-sung concentrated, feeling the armor's energy systems respond to his will. Reality seemed to bend around him, and suddenly he was behind one of the attackers. Before the soldier could react, Tae-sung grabbed him and threw him into his companion. Both went down in a tangle of limbs. The third soldier spun around, his weapon tracking. Tae-sung teleported again, this time to the soldier's left. He grabbed the weapon and crushed the barrel, then delivered a knockout blow. The soldier dropped. The fourth and final attacker was backing toward the exit, clearly reconsidering his assignment. This isn't worth the payment, he muttered, then turned and ran. Silence fell over the cargo bay. Tae-sung stood among the unconscious attackers, his chest heaving. The fight had lasted less than a minute, but his power levels had dropped significantly. Hyunwoo emerged from his hiding spot, staring. What are you? What is that armor? Before Tae-sung could answer, more alarms began sounding. Jamin's voice came through again. More Covenant forces are landing on the station. They're not being subtle anymore. You need to leave now. I'm in docking bay 7 with a ship. Bring Hyunwoo. What about everyone else on the station? The Covenant won't harm them. They only want you in the armor. If you stay, people will die in the crossfire. It hurt to run, to leave others in danger. But Tae-sung knew Jamin was right. He grabbed Hyunwoo's arm. Come on. I'll explain everything once we're safe. They ran through the station corridors, avoiding the main passages. Tae-sung could hear fighting in other sections. The Covenant had brought a small army. How had they mobilized so quickly? Because they've been waiting, Ara said, reading his thoughts. They have surveillance on every major station and colony. The moment you revealed the armor in public, they knew. They probably had forces standing by, ready to deploy. Docking Bay 7 was in chaos. Ships were trying to launch, panicked pilots fleeing the station. The return journey felt like a dream. Tae-sung sat in the pilot's chair, the armor still sealed around him. He had tried to remove it twice, but each time Ara had gently insisted he keep it on until they reached safety. The AI's voice had become a constant presence in his mind, sometimes offering information, sometimes simply keeping him company in the vast emptiness of space. "Tell me the truth," Taesung said finally. "All of it. What were humans before? Why don't we remember?" Ara was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of ages. "Very well. I will share what I know, though some memories were damaged in the long sleep. Humanity did not evolve on Earth alone. Your ancestors were created. Created? By who? By a race that existed before all current civilizations. They needed warriors, soldiers who could adapt to any environment, learn any skill, and never give up no matter the odds. So they took a promising species and enhanced it. They gave humans incredible mental plasticity, the ability to survive almost anything, and something they called the will. It was the power to exceed your limits when protecting something you care about." Taesung felt sick. "We were weapons. Nothing more. At first, yes. But humans evolved beyond their creator's intentions. You developed culture, art, philosophy. You became more than warriors. When your creators demanded you fight a war that would destroy innocent civilizations, humanity refused. That refusal started the greatest war the galaxy has ever seen. And we lost? No," Ara said, and there was pride in her voice. "You won. But the victory cost everything. The final battle took place in what you now call the Forbidden Sector. Every human warrior, including the 12 Sentinels, made a choice. They sealed away a threat so terrible that it would have consumed the entire galaxy. To do this, they had to sacrifice themselves. But some humans survived. Otherwise, my species wouldn't exist." "Correct. Before the final battle, the Sentinels sent the non-combatants away to a distant system. They erased their memories and gave them a new start on a world called Earth. It was meant as a gift, a chance to live without war. But humanity's enemies saw an opportunity. They formed what they called the Covenant of Silence when what did they do? They manipulated history, erased records, spread lies. Over thousands of years, they ensured that no one remembered what humans truly were. They influenced Earth's development, keeping humanity isolated and weak. When humans finally reached space on their own, the Covenant made sure they were seen as inferior, as newcomers who barely deserved a place in the galactic community. Rage built in Taesung's chest. His entire life he had believed humans were weak. Every insult, every mocking laugh, every moment of shame had been based on a lie. "Why? Why go to such lengths?" "Because they feared you," Ara said simply. "Even the Covenant couldn't kill all humans. You were too scattered, too resilient, so they chose a different path. They made sure humans believed they were powerless. A lie repeated for generations becomes truth. Your species forgot who you were. And the armors? The Sentinels? We were hidden, scattered across the galaxy in places no one would think to look. I have been waiting for 3,847 years for a human to find me. The other 11 Sentinel armors are still out there, sleeping, waiting for their inheritors." Taesung looked down at his armored hands. They looked powerful, dangerous. "Why me? I'm nobody. Just a salvager who couldn't even earn respect from his crew. You are the one who had the courage to enter the Forbidden Sector. You are the one whose blood responded to the armor's call. That makes you a Sentinel, whether you feel ready or not." The rest of the journey passed in silence. Taesung used the time to explore the armor's capabilities through the neural link. The more he learned, the more amazed he became. The armor had integrated weapons, energy shields, enhanced strength that let him lift several tons, and reaction speeds that made everything seem to move in slow motion. It could even generate limited energy fields that could be used for short-range teleportation. But the most incredible feature was how it connected to his mind. The armor didn't just respond to his thoughts. It enhanced them. His thinking became clearer, faster. Problems that would have taken him hours to solve now took minutes. "This is permanent," Ara explained. "Even if you remove the armor, some of these enhancements will remain. The neural link changes the structure of your brain in subtle ways. You will always be faster, stronger, and smarter than you were before." "Will I still be human?" Taesung asked quietly. "You will be what humans were always meant to be." When the station finally appeared on his sensors, Taesung felt his stomach tighten with anxiety. How was he supposed to explain any of this? He couldn't exactly hide the armor. Even retracted, it formed a sleek underlayer that was clearly visible. "Ara, can you make the armor look like a normal salvage suit? I can create a holographic disguise. It will not fool close inspection, but from a distance it should work." The armor shimmered, and when Taesung looked down, he saw what appeared to be a standard environmental suit. "Good enough. He docked at the station and made his way through the familiar corridors. Other salvagers stared at him in shock. News of his survival had clearly not been expected. He heard whispers as he passed. He actually made it back. Impossible. No one survives the forbidden sector. Did he find anything valuable? Taesung kept walking until he reached Hyunwoo's office. His friend looked up from his work and his eyes widened. "You're alive," Hyunwoo said, standing up quickly. "I didn't think—" "We all thought you were dead. I survived. What did you find out there?" Taesung wanted to tell him everything, but something made him hesitate. Jaemin's words came back to him. "Report anything unusual directly before sharing with anyone else. I need to speak with Jaemin first, then I'll explain everything." Hyunwoo looked hurt but nodded. "Of course. He's been asking about you. Go see him now." Taesung made his way to the guildmaster's office. Before he could press the door chime, it opened. Jaemin stood there, his expression unreadable. "Come in quickly," he said, glancing down the corridor, "and engage the privacy seal." Once inside with the door locked, Jaemin moved around his desk and stood very close to Taesung. His eyes scanned the holographic disguise and something like recognition crossed his face. "Show me," Jaemin said quietly. "Show me what you found." Taesung hesitated, then dismissed the hologram. The sentinel armor was revealed in all its glory, glowing faintly in the office light. Jaemin actually stepped back, his hand going to his mouth. "By the ancestors, it's real. After all these years, it's finally real." "You knew," Taesung said, and it wasn't a question. "You knew what was out there." "I suspected. My family has kept records, stories passed down through generations, stories about humanity's true past, about the Sentinels, about the Great Betrayal, but I never thought I would see proof in my lifetime. Who else knows? A few. There are others like me, humans who never forgot. We call ourselves the Rememberers. We've been searching for any trace of our real history for centuries, but the Covenant has been very thorough in erasing evidence." "The Covenant," Taesung said darkly. "Ara told me about them." Jaemin's eyes widened. "The armor's AI is active? This is incredible. We have to be careful, Taesung. If the Covenant learns that a Sentinel has awakened, they will stop at nothing to eliminate you." "Let them try," Taesung said, and he was surprised by the confidence in his voice. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel afraid. A warning chime sounded on Jaemin's desk. He checked the display and his face went pale. "No, it's too soon."
"How could they know already?"
"What is it?" "Vrock has challenged you to a duel. It's his right under guild law. You can't refuse without being expelled from the station." Taesung felt a cold smile cross his face. "Good. I've wanted to teach him a lesson for years. You don't understand. This isn't about teaching him a lesson. Vrock is working for someone. This is a setup. They want you to reveal your abilities in public, to prove you're a threat that needs to be eliminated. Then I'll be careful." "Taesung, listen to me. The moment you step into that arena, everything changes. There's no going back." Taesung thought about all the years of mockery, all the times he had been made to feel worthless, all the lies about humanity being weak. "Good," he said. "I don't want to go back." The arena was packed when Taesung arrived. Hundreds of aliens had gathered to watch the spectacle. In the center of the combat ring stood Vrock and two of his friends, all wearing combat armor and carrying weapons. Taesung walked forward, the Sentinel armor still disguised as a simple suit. He heard the crowd laughing, making bets on how quickly he would lose. "Ready to die, human?" Vrock called out. "I'm going to enjoy crushing you." Taesung stepped into the ring and dismissed the holographic disguise. The Sentinel armor was revealed and the crowd fell silent. "No," Taesung said calmly. "But you're about to learn why humans were once feared across the galaxy." Vrock charged and the fight began. The journey to the Forbidden Sector took 3 days. Taesung's ship was old and slow, a basic salvage vessel that had seen better decades. The engines made worrying noises, and the life support system sometimes forgot to regulate the temperature properly. But it flew, and that was enough. He spent those 3 days reading everything he could find about the Forbidden Sector. There wasn't much information. Most of it was rumors and ghost stories. Some salvagers claimed to have seen strange lights in the debris fields. Others talked about hearing voices over their communication systems, voices speaking in languages nobody recognized. One report mentioned finding a ship that had been cut cleanly in half, as if by a massive blade. but there was no explanation for what could have done it. The more Tae-sung read, the more he wondered if he had made a terrible mistake, but turning back now would mean facing Vrock's mockery for the rest of his life. He would rather face whatever waited in the forbidden sector. On the third day, his navigation system beeped. He had arrived. The view screen showed a sight that took his breath away. Stretching in every direction was a field of debris unlike anything he had ever seen. Thousands, maybe millions of pieces of destroyed ships floated in the void. Some were small, just fragments of hull or broken equipment. Others were massive sections of warships, their designs strange and ancient. Tae-sung had salvaged debris before, but this was different. These ships were old. Not just decades or centuries old, but ancient beyond measure. The metal had a quality to it that seemed wrong, as if it existed slightly out of phase with normal space. He guided his ship carefully into the field, using the maneuvering thrusters to avoid the larger pieces. His sensors swept the area constantly, searching for anything valuable. Hours passed as he navigated deeper into the debris. He found plenty of interesting pieces, but nothing worth the risk of coming here. Then his sensors detected something unusual. Deep within the field, hidden behind a cluster of destroyed vessels, was a massive energy signature. It was faint, barely registering, but it was there. Something was still producing power after all these years. Tae-sung changed course following the signature. As he got closer, his sensors began to malfunction. The readings flickered and changed, showing impossible data. He switched to visual navigation, relying on his eyes instead of the instruments. What he saw made him grip the controls tighter. Ahead, partially hidden within a collapsed asteroid, was a ship. But calling it a ship didn't do it justice. It was enormous, easily 10 times the size of any vessel he had seen before. The hull was dark, almost black, and covered in symbols that glowed faintly with internal light. The design was like nothing in any database. It wasn't Krathian or Vespid or any of the other major species. The angles were wrong, the proportions strange. Looking at it made his eyes hurt, as if his brain couldn't quite process what it was seeing. His communication system crackled with static. For a moment he thought he heard words in the noise, but they were gone before he could make them out. Every instinct told him to turn around and leave. This was clearly the source of whatever had killed the other salvage crews. But he had come too far to turn back now, and something about the ship called to him, a feeling he couldn't explain. Tae-sung brought his vessel alongside the derelict and activated the docking protocols. There was a breach in the hull large enough for him to enter. He suited up, checking his oxygen supply 3 times before leaving his ship. The moment he crossed into the derelict, everything changed. His suit's lights illuminated a corridor that seemed to stretch impossibly far. The walls were covered in more of those glowing symbols. Some of them looked almost familiar, like ancient human writing, but mixed with other scripts he didn't recognize. He moved carefully, his magnetic boots clicking against the floor. The corridor opened into a larger chamber, and Tae-sung stopped in shock. Bodies were scattered across the floor, or what remained of bodies. Skeletons in ancient armor, their bones turned to dust in places. He saw aliens of species he didn't recognize, their remains still clutching weapons. And there, near the far wall, was a human skeleton. He was sure of it. The bone structure was unmistakable, but that was impossible. Humans had only reached space a few hundred years ago. This ship was thousands of years old at least. The human skeleton wore armor like the others, but it was more advanced, sleeker. The metal still gleamed despite the passage of time. Tae-sung knelt beside it, studying the design. There were systems built into the armor that he recognized, power cells and shield generators, but they were miniaturized beyond anything modern technology could achieve. He followed the corridor deeper into the ship. More bodies, more signs of a terrible battle. Whatever had happened here, it had been violent and final. The deeper he went, the more human remains he found. By the time he reached the central chamber, he had counted at least 20 human skeletons, all in advanced armor. The central chamber was vast, easily 100 meters across. In the center stood a pedestal, and on that pedestal was a suit of armor. It stood upright as if waiting for someone to claim it. The armor was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Sleek lines covered in intricate engravings that seemed to pulse with a faint blue light. The helmet had a smooth faceplate that reflected his image back at him. Tae-sung approached slowly. As he got closer, lights began to activate around the chamber. He spun around in alarm and saw that the walls were lined with more armor suits, dozens of them, all standing in silent vigil. They were similar to the one on the pedestal, but somehow lesser, as if they were meant to serve the central armor. A holographic display suddenly materialized above the pedestal. Taesung jumped back, his heart racing. The display showed text, and to his amazement it was in Korean. Ancient Korean, the kind he had only seen in history books, but he could read it. To the inheritor of the line, the text read, "If you have found this place, then the time of silence has ended. Take up the armor of your ancestors. Remember what was forgotten. Become what you were always meant to be." His hands trembled as he reached out to touch the armor. The moment his fingers made contact, the metal rippled like water. The armor opened, sections sliding apart with perfect precision. It was inviting him in. Taesung knew he should stop. He should leave this place and report what he had found. But something deeper than logic drove him forward. This armor had been waiting for someone. Maybe it had been waiting for him. He stepped into the armor, and it closed around him like a second skin. The helmet sealed with a soft hiss, and for a moment everything went dark. Then light exploded behind his eyes. Information flooded his mind faster than he could process. Images of battles fought in distant stars. Voices speaking in dozens of languages. The feeling of power, incredible power, flowing through synthetic muscles and energy channels. A voice spoke directly into his mind, calm and ancient. Sentinel armor activated. Neural link established. Welcome back, Inheritor. I am Ara, the intelligence bound to this armor. It has been 3,147 years since last activation. Taesung tried to speak, but his voice came out as a strangled gasp. What is this? This is your birthright, Ara replied. You are human. Once your species was feared across the galaxy. You were the Sentinels, the vanguard, the protectors of the ancient empire. This armor was created for humanity's greatest warriors. That's impossible. Humans have only been in space for a few hundred years. No, that is the lie that was told. The truth was erased, hidden, because your enemies feared your return. But the blood remembers. Your blood remembers. Before he could ask more questions, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The holographic display changed, showing hostile systems activating. The derelict's automated defenses had detected an intruder. You must leave, Ara said urgently. The ship's security protocols were designed to kill anyone who entered without authorization. The armor protects you, but this vessel will collapse if the defense systems fully activate. Panels in the walls slid open, revealing weapons that hummed with building energy. Taesung didn't think. The armor moved, responding to his thoughts as if it were part of his body. He ran toward the exit faster than he had ever moved in his life. Energy beams lanced through the corridor behind him. The armor's shields flickered into existence, deflecting the shots. He leaped over debris, his enhanced strength carrying him 10 meters in a single bound. The ship was coming apart, ancient systems overloading after millennia of dormancy. He reached his salvage vessel and practically flew inside. His hands moved over the controls with impossible speed and precision. The ship pulled away from the derelict, just as a massive explosion tore through the ancient vessel. Debris scattered in all directions, and Taesung's ship was caught in the shockwave. Alarm screamed as his vessel tumbled through space. But the armor was still with him, and somehow he knew what to do. He regained control and set a course back to the station, his mind reeling from everything that had happened. Behind him, the Forbidden Sector continued its silent vigil over the graves of ancient warriors. The metal floor was cold beneath Taesung's boots as he walked through the salvage bay. Around him, aliens of every shape and size worked on their ships, laughing and talking in languages that made his translator buzz against his ear. He kept his head down and moved quickly toward his workstation. Experience had taught him that being invisible was safer than being noticed. Look who decided to show up, a deep voice boomed across the bay. Taesung's shoulders tensed. He knew that voice. Vrok, the Krathian warrior, stood near the main entrance with 3 of his friends. The alien was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, with dark blue skin that looked like rock. His forearms crossed over his broad chest as he grinned, showing rows of sharp teeth. Taesung tried to walk past, but one of Vrok's hands shot out and grabbed his shoulder. The grip was tight enough to hurt, but not quite tight enough to leave a bruise. Vrok had practice at this. Where are you running to, little human? Vrok asked. His friends laughed. We were just talking about you. Telling stories about how humans are the weakest species in the galaxy. Is it true your bones break if you fall down? Let me go, Vrok, Taesung said quietly. I have work to do. Work? Another alien stepped forward. This was Selen, a Vespid with sleek green scales and eyes like a snake. What work can a human possibly do? Your species barely reached the stars a few hundred years ago. You are children playing with toys you don't understand. The word stung because part of Taesung wondered if they were right. Humans were weak compared to most aliens. They couldn't breathe different atmospheres like the Vespids. They didn't have the strength of Krathians or the natural armor of Thorians. In the great galactic community, humans were considered the bottom of the ladder. Useful for simple tasks, but nothing more. Vrock finally released him with a shove that nearly sent Taesung stumbling. Get to work, human. Try not to break anything important. Taesung walked to his station, ignoring the laughter behind him. His work area was in the corner of the bay, separated from the others. A small space with old equipment that nobody else wanted to use. He sat down and pulled up his daily assignments on the cracked screen. The door to the supervisor's office opened and Hyunwoo stepped out. He was one of the few other humans on the station, older than Taesung by about 10 years. His face was weathered from years in space, but his eyes were kind. Don't let them get to you, Hyunwoo said softly as he approached. He glanced back at Vrock's group, then shook his head. They're idiots who judge everyone by physical strength. Maybe they're right, though, Taesung replied. Humans are weak. We can't compete with species that evolved on high-gravity worlds or in dangerous environments. Hyunwoo pulled up a chair and sat down beside him. Strength isn't everything. Our ancestors survived ice ages, plagues, and wars with nothing but primitive tools. We made it to space on our own, not because someone gave us the technology. That takes a different kind of strength. Before Taesung could respond, an alarm chimed through the bay. Everyone stopped working and looked up at the large screens mounted on the walls. The face of Jae-min, the station's guildmaster, appeared. He was human, which was rare for such a high position. His expression was serious. Attention all salvage crews, Jae-min said. We have received a priority contract from the Galactic Council. There is a salvage opportunity in Sector 447, also known as the Forbidden Sector. The pay is substantial, but I must warn you that this area is extremely dangerous. 7 crews have entered that sector in the past 20 years. None have returned. A murmur ran through the bay. The Forbidden Sector was legendary among salvagers. Ancient battlefields filled with debris from wars fought thousands of years ago. Some said the area was cursed. Others claimed that dangerous anomalies made navigation impossible. Whatever the truth, it was a place that even the bravest crews avoided. Any crew willing to accept this contract should report to my office within the hour, Jae-min continued. That is all. The screen went dark. For a moment, nobody moved. Then the conversation started low and nervous. Taesung watched as crew after crew shook their heads and went back to work. Nobody was foolish enough to volunteer for a suicide mission. An idea formed in Taesung's mind. It was crazy, possibly stupid, but it was also an opportunity. If he could succeed where others had failed, maybe the other salvagers would finally see him as something more than a weak human. Maybe he would see himself as something more. Don't even think about it, Hyunwoo said, reading his expression. That sector is called Forbidden for a reason. Whatever is out there killed experienced crews with good ships and better equipment than anything you have access to. Nobody else is going to volunteer, Taesung said. And I'm tired of being treated like I'm worthless. Proving yourself isn't worth dying for. Maybe not. Taesung stood up. But I have to try. I can't keep living like this, always afraid, always hiding. If I die out there, at least I'll die doing something brave. Hyunwoo grabbed his arm. Listen to me. I've been in space for 15 years. I've seen things that would give you nightmares. The Forbidden Sector isn't just dangerous because of debris or navigation problems. There are stories about that place. Stories that go back further than any recorded history. Ships don't just vanish there. They find some of them later, drifting and empty. The crews are gone, but there's no sign of what happened to them. Then why is the council offering a contract? Hyunwoo hesitated. I don't know. But it makes me nervous. The council doesn't do anything without a reason. Taesung pulled his arm free gently. I appreciate your concern, but my mind is made up. I'm going to Jae-min's office. He walked across the bay, aware that every eye was on him. Vrock's laughter followed him. The human is going to volunteer. Finally, we'll be rid of him. Taesung ignored the comment and kept walking. His heart pounded in his chest, but he didn't let himself hesitate. He reached Jae-min's office and pressed the door chime. Enter, came the response. The office was small but organized. Jamin sat behind a desk covered with data pads and star charts. He looked up as Taesung entered and something like concern crossed his face. Taesung, he said carefully, please tell me you're not here to volunteer. I am. Jamin sighed and leaned back in his chair. Do you understand what you're agreeing to? This isn't a normal salvage run. The mortality rate is 100%, I understand. Why? You're young. You have your whole life ahead of you. Why throw it away on a mission that will probably kill you? Taesung met his eyes. Because I'm tired of being nothing. Tired of being looked down on. If I succeed, maybe things will change. If I fail, then at least I tried to be something more than what everyone expects. For a long moment, Jamin studied him. Then he nodded slowly. I see, very well. The contract is yours. You'll be provided with a standard salvage vessel and basic supplies. The coordinates will be uploaded to your navigation system. May fortune favor you, Taesung. Thank you, sir. As Taesung turned to leave, Jamin spoke again. One more thing. If you find anything unusual out there, anything at all, report it to me directly before sharing with anyone else. Do you understand? It was an odd request, but Taesung nodded. I understand. He left the office and walked back through the bay. This time he kept his head up. Let them laugh. Let them think he was going to die. Soon enough he would prove them all wrong, or he would die trying. In the middle of the confusion stood a sleek vessel that Taesung didn't recognize. Jamin waved from the boarding. The ship flew through space for hours, jumping between systems to avoid pursuit. Taesung sat in the small crew quarters, finally removing the Sentinel armor. It retracted smoothly, forming a thin underlayer against his skin. Even without the full armor deployed, he could feel its presence, a constant connection in his mind. Hyunwoo sat across from him, still processing everything he had seen. I need you to explain, he said quietly. All of it. What is that armor? Why were those soldiers trying to kill you? And how did you move like that? Taesung took a deep breath and told him everything. The Forbidden Sector, the ancient ship, the Sentinel armor, and Ara's revelations about humanity's true history. He watched his friend's face go through shock, disbelief, and finally, anger. They lied to us, Hyunwoo said when the story was done. For thousands of years they made humans believe we were nothing, and we accepted it because we didn't know any better. It's worse than that, Jamin said, entering the quarters. He had left the ship on autopilot. The Covenant didn't just erase our history. They actively worked to keep humanity weak. Every time humans made significant technological advances, mysterious accidents would happen. Every time human colonies grew too strong, they would face unexpected problems. It wasn't bad luck. It was deliberate sabotage. How do you know all this? Taesung asked. My family has been collecting evidence for 6 generations. We're part of a group called the Rememberers. There are only a few thousand of us spread across human colonies, but we've been working to uncover the truth for centuries. We have fragments of old records, recovered data from ancient sites, testimony from aliens who were willing to talk. None of it was enough to prove anything until now. Jamin pulled out a data pad and displayed a star map. Several systems were marked in red. These are locations where we believe other Sentinel armors might be hidden. If we can recover even one more, we could have proof that can't be denied. The Covenant will be watching those sites. Ara's voice came from the armor. All 3 men jumped slightly. The AI could project her voice through external speakers when the armor wasn't worn. They have been searching for the armors for millennia. Any known location will be monitored. Then what do we do? Hyunwoo asked. Before anyone could answer, the ship's alarms blared. Jamin ran to the cockpit and the others followed. The view screen showed 3 ships emerging from hyperspace behind them, moving fast. Covenant hunters, Jamin said grimly. They found us faster than I expected. How did they track us? They didn't, Ara said. They predicted your course. The Covenant has been studying human behavior for thousands of years. They know how humans think, how you react under pressure. They set up tracking beacons along likely escape routes. Can we outrun them? Taesung asked. No. This ship is fast, but those are military interceptors. They'll catch us within 20 minutes. Taesung felt a strange calm settle over him. Then we fight. With what? This ship has minimal weapons. We'd be destroyed in seconds. Not if I go out there, everyone stared at him. Hyunwoo spoke first. You can't be serious. That's space. You'll die. The Sentinel armor is designed for space combat, Ara explained. It has its own life support and propulsion systems. but Taesung has only worn it for less than a day. He hasn't trained for zero-gravity combat. The odds of survival are low. What are our odds if I don't try? Taesung asked. Silence answered him. He nodded and began putting the armor back on. The metal flowed over his body, sealing him inside. The neural link activated and he felt the armor's systems come online. Power levels were at 70% after the fight on the station, enough for what he needed to do. There's an airlock in the cargo bay, Jaemin said. Are you sure about this? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Taesung walked to the cargo bay. Behind him he heard Hyunwoo's voice. He better survive this. I just found out humans are supposed to be badass warriors. I want to see more of that. Despite everything, Taesung smiled inside his helmet. He entered the airlock and sealed the inner door. His heart pounded as the outer door opened, revealing the infinite void of space. Activating spatial propulsion, Ara said. Remember, movement in zero gravity requires different thinking. You push against space itself using the armor's field generators. Imagine the direction you want to go and the armor will handle the physics. Taesung stepped out into space. For a moment, panic threatened to overwhelm him. He was floating in nothing, no up or down, no reference point. Then the armor's system steadied him and the panic faded. The 3 Covenant ships were approaching fast, weapons charging. Taesung focused, imagining himself moving toward them. The armor responded and suddenly he was accelerating. The sensation was strange, like being pushed by invisible hands. Target the lead ship's engines, Era advised. If you can disable it, the others may retreat to assist, buying time for Jaemin to escape. The Covenant ships opened fire. Energy beams lanced through space, blindingly bright. Taesung dodged, using the armor's propulsion to change direction rapidly. It was disorienting, but the neural link helped him adapt. He could feel where the shots would go before they fired, reading the ship's weapon systems through the armor's sensors. He reached the first ship and landed on its hull with magnetic boots. The metal vibrated beneath him as the ship tried to shake him off with violent maneuvers. Taesung held on and made his way toward the engine section. Warning, Ara said. The ship is preparing to fire its point defense turrets. You're in their targeting range. Taesung grabbed the nearest turret and tore it from its mounting, using it as a shield against the others. Sparks flew as the turrets fired on each other. He threw the destroyed turret at a cluster of weapons, destroying 3 more. The ship's engines were ahead. They glowed with blue energy, powerful and dangerous. Taesung formed an energy blade from the armor systems, a technique Ara had shown him during the neural link. The blade materialized in his hand, crackling with power. He drove the blade into the engine casing. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Energy feedback surged through the ship's systems and the engine began to overload. Taesung pushed off the hull just as the engine exploded. The ship went spinning away, crippled but not destroyed. The other 2 ships broke off their pursuit of Jaemin and turned toward Taesung. Good. That was what he wanted. He flew toward them, dodging their fire with movements that were starting to feel natural. You're adapting quickly, Ara noted. Your neural structure is integrating with the armor faster than normal. Perhaps because humans were designed for this. One of the ships launched missiles. Taesung watched them approach, calculated their speed and trajectory, and realized he couldn't dodge all of them. So he flew straight at them instead. What are you doing? Ara asked. Something crazy. At the last second, Taesung teleported. The short-range jump took him past the missiles, which lost their lock and exploded harmlessly behind him. He appeared right next to the ship's bridge and punched through the viewport. The reinforced glass cracked but didn't shatter completely. Taesung punched again and again, each strike powered by the armor's strength. On the 4th hit, the glass gave way. Emergency force fields activated inside the ship, preventing decompression, but alarms were blaring. Through the broken viewport, Taesung could see the ship's crew. They were aliens he didn't recognize, wearing black armor marked with the symbol of the Covenant. They stared at him in shock and fear. Leave, Taesung said, his voice transmitted through the armor speakers. This is your only warning. Stop hunting us or next time I won't be merciful. One of the crew members reached for a weapon. Taesung's hand shot through the force field, grabbed the weapon and crushed it. I said leave. The 3rd ship was still coming, but suddenly it changed course. Instead of attacking, it moved to pick up the crew from the damaged vessels. Taesung watched as escape pods launched, and the injured ships limped away into hyperspace. He had won. Against 3 military ships he had won. Impressive, a new voice said through his communication channel. It was cold, ancient and filled with contempt. The human has some skill. But skill alone will not save your species. Who is this? Taesung demanded. I am High Arbiter Malth, leader of the Covenant of Silence. For 3,000 years I have worked to keep humanity in its place. I was there when your ancestors fell. I watched your species be broken and scattered. And now you think wearing ancient armor makes you a threat? You are one human with one suit. We are many, and we have endless resources. Then why are you talking to me instead of attacking? Because I want you to understand the futility of your situation. You cannot change what was decided millennia ago. Humanity will remain weak, controlled, forgotten. This is the natural order. The natural order, Taesung said slowly, is that humans refuse to give up. That's what makes us dangerous to you. Not the armor, not our strength. Our refusal to accept defeat. Malth laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Bold words. But words change nothing. I am coming for you, human. I am bringing a fleet that will turn your allies' ship into dust. And when you watch them die, you will understand that fighting us is pointless. The communication cut off. Taesung floated in space, looking at the stars.